She tugged on his sleeve with tiny trembling fingers, her voice barely a whisper lost in the storm of morning commuters. "Sir, my mom isn't waking up," the CEO, stone-faced, ruthless, feared by boardrooms across the country, froze mid-stride. His world, usually held together by numbers and deadlines, suddenly collapsed in the terrified eyes of a little girl in oversized shoes and a faded pink hoodie. He didn't know her name. He didn't know her story, but something in the way she clung to hope, like it was the last thread holding her world together, forced him to breathe, blink, and whisper back, "Take me to her." And what he found inside that tiny apartment would change not just his morning, but the rest of his life. Leonard Hale had built an empire by never slowing down. He was the CEO who fired people with a single email, the man whose assistant jogged to keep up with him, the name whispered in fear during quarterly reviews. At 48, he was rich, respected, and absolutely emotionally unreachable, at least until that morning. The sun had barely risen, painting the sidewalks gold, when Leonard's car dropped him off 2 blocks early because he insisted on walking into the building like a human, not a king, as he often said. He liked the control of a calm walk before chaos greeted him upstairs. His phone buzzed non-stop: investor pressure, merger documents, a lawsuit threat. But he ignored all of it when he saw the little girl standing alone. She couldn't have been more than 7. Dusty sneakers, hair in 2 uneven pigtails, a backpack that looked heavier than she was, and eyes big, brown, and swollen from crying. As he passed, she reached for him with a desperation so raw it sliced through his perfectly crafted morning armor. Sir, she stammered, tugging his coat sleeve. Leonard paused, irritated at first until he heard what she said next. "Sir, my mom isn't waking up." The words sank into him like cold water. People walked around them, annoyed, uninterested, too busy to care. A businessman stepped around the girl as if she were an obstacle, not a child in crisis. Leonard crouched down, his expensive suit tightening at the knees. "What do you mean she isn't waking up?" he asked softly, surprising himself. She fell last night," the girl whispered, tears sliding down her cheeks. "She said she was just tired. But when I tried to wake her up this morning, she won't open her eyes. I don't know what to do." Her voice cracked into a sob. She tried to hide behind her small hands. Leonard swallowed hard, feeling something unfamiliar press against his ribs. Concern, heavy and urgent. Something he hadn't felt in a long time. He glanced around for help, but no one stopped. The city moved like it always did, unbothered by someone else's emergency. "What's your name?" he asked. "Lila." "Okay, Lila," he exhaled. "Can you take me to your mom?" She nodded quickly, grabbed his hand instinctively, and pulled him toward a narrow alleyway beside a laundromat. Leonard hesitated for half a second. This was definitely not where CEO were supposed to walk, but the tiny hand in his kept him moving up 2 creaking flights of stairs, down a hallway that smelled of old paint and broken hopes. Lila stopped at a peeling brown door. Inside, the apartment was small but carefully kept. Folded blankets, a few drawings taped on the wall, a chipped table with 2 chairs. And on a thin mattress on the floor, her mother lay still, a young woman, pale, breathing shallowly, her hair fanned across the pillow like she had collapsed mid-sentence. A half-empty bottle of cheap headache pills sat on the floor. Lila ran to her, shaking her arm. "Mommy, please, wake up, please." Leonard's breath caught. He wasn't a doctor, but he knew danger when he saw it. His phone was already in his hand. Ambulance, now. For the first time in years, he didn't care about meetings, shareholders, or his reputation. All he cared about was the little girl crying over her mother's unmoving hand. And as sirens approached in the distance, Leonard felt the beginning of something. A crack forming in the walls he had spent decades building. The paramedics rushed in moments later, lifting the unconscious woman onto a stretcher with practiced urgency. Lila tried to climb in with her mother, but a paramedic gently held her back. "She needs treatment first, sweetheart. You can follow us." Lila's lip trembled. "I'm scared." Before Leonard could think, he spoke. "I'll go with you." The little girl looked up at him with a trust he felt he didn't deserve, but he let her hold his hand as they rode behind the ambulance. He stayed silent, watching Lila whisper, "Please be okay," over and over, her small body shaking. At the hospital, doctors moved quickly. Lila's mother, whose name Leonard learned was Mara Jensen, had collapsed from a dangerous combination of exhaustion, anemia, and untreated infection. A doctor explained in clipped tones, "She's been overworked, undernourished, and likely ignoring symptoms for weeks." "Single mom?" "Yes," Lila answered for her. She works at the bakery. She always says she's strong, but she's been coughing a lot and she hasn't been eating much, so I could. Leonard felt something twist painfully inside him. He waited with the girl for hours. He bought her food she barely touched. He contacted the hospital to ensure her mother was given the best care. His assistant called him 8 times. He didn't answer once. When the doctor finally returned, Layla squeezed his hand again. "She'll live," he said, "but she needs long rest. Weeks, maybe more." Lila burst into relieved tears. Leonard gently placed a hand on her back, but when the doctor added, "She has no insurance, this stay will be expensive," Layla's relief turned into fresh fear. Leonard didn't hesitate. "Put everything under my account," he said, voice calm but firm. The doctor blinked. "Sir, I said everything." Lila stared at him like he had just lifted the moon. Why are you helping us?" She whispered. Leonard opened his mouth to respond but stopped. He didn't know how to explain the truth, that 23 years ago he had been just like Leila, a scared child watching his own mother collapse from exhaustion, left to navigate the world alone when she never woke up again. He had buried that memory under ambition, wealth, coldness, until this morning, until this tiny girl pulled him back into the past he never faced. Instead, he answered simply, because no child should feel the way you feel right now. Days passed. Leonard visited every morning, and every night he learned that Mara worked 3 jobs, that she had no family nearby, that she often skipped meals so Lila wouldn't have to, that she read to her daughter every night until she fell asleep on the floor. And slowly, very slowly, Leonard began to smile again. He helped with homework. He brought groceries. He fixed the broken doorknob in their apartment himself instead of sending a contractor. He walked Leila to school, then sat with Mara during recovery, and one evening as the fading sun painted the hospital room gold, Mara whispered, "You've done too much for us. We can never repay you." Leonard shook his head softly. "You already did." She frowned. "How?" "You reminded me what being human feels like." Her eyes warmed, soft, grateful, and full of a strength he respected. That night, as he walked out of the hospital, he knew something with absolute certainty. His life had already changed, and he wasn't going back.